This is Triple Threat, and we are all new. You can now listen to us on Anchor, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and more. And before we begin, we want to know what's on your mind. Just drop a question in the comment section below, and we will get to it in our next episode. And we've got a lot of sports to get through today. We've got the Hard Knocks, we've got NBA and NFL. We've got another segment of Breakout or Bust for you guys, our most interesting team in the NFL, and we'll close out the show with a little bit of the MLB playoffs. I want to start off with Hard Knocks, Will, because I am really enjoying it this year, and I think HBO is putting on a great show for NFL fans all over the country, and especially with the Browns. It's a team that's so interesting. 0-16 last season. They're the joke of the NFL. Then they bring in a guy like Baker Mayfield, and we're beginning to learn about his personality. And I'm beginning to like him more and more after each episode. And not to mention, Des Bryant will probably be on next week's episode because he visited the Browns on Thursday. So Cleveland is just racking up views for Hard Knocks and HBO, and I think it's great. I don't know if you're enjoying it as much as I am.
I mean, it's the reason it's the most successful show that they've had. They've been going on since 2001, and this Browns team is the most interesting team they've done it on, and it's paid off. They've had the worst team in the NFL. They have a lot of hype for the next season because Jarvis Landry said that they're a Super Bowl contender this year.
I don't know about that.
No, obviously not. If you can't go from 0-16 to 15-1.
Yeah.
That's a big step up, and they still have a pretty similar roster. But this episode, it was obviously the most intriguing one they've had so far. They have three big plots that we'll talk about. One, Corey Coleman.
Oh, yeah.
Why did they trade him away? Hard Knocks tells why. The offensive coordinator was bullying him for his attitude, for his effort, and he was getting dropped to the second stringers in training camp. So he goes up to Hugh Jackson. Hey, coach, and then completely emotional, like a reality TV show. Why am I not playing with the first stringers? Like, if you don't want me here, then I'm not going. I want to trade away. I want to leave this organization if you don't want me here.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why he got traded. We talked about it. Wait, why is he getting traded for so cheap too? This is his first round asset from 2 years ago.
We had no clue.
So we finally get a reason for that. We get the infighting between the teams. This could be a bad sign for this season, or the Browns, or it could just be normal football. Tensions are high because they have so much pressure on them from a high demand sport. So you have like Cleveland, they have a high successful. The Indians are successful. The Cavs were extremely successful with LeBron. They reached 4 straight finals. They were good with him before. They were all consistent playoff team. We went to the Heat. And now that he's gone, and the Browns are 0-16 last season, it's not good for them. And all their hopes are riding on the Indians and the Browns this season because the Cavs have no chance, in my opinion, of even making the playoffs in the East. So if they can actually prove to the city that they can be a good team in the NFL, they'll have an extremely happy and strong fan base. But they will get restless. This does cause animosity within the training camp, and that has started a couple fights. Jarvis Landry and the quarterback group, Myles Garrett and the offensive line group, a lot of fighting going on. Could just be football. It could be a bad sign. And the most interesting thing, my number 3, it's Odell Beckham. This isn't really a highlighted point of the episode, but the fact that he's featured so prominently throughout the episode really is hinting towards something. And if it's playing out like a reality TV show, which it is so far this season, with all this drama going on this Cleveland Browns, Odell, he's been featuring more prominently than a lot of players on the Browns themselves. That's the team they're supposed to be focusing on. It was him with the head coach Hugh Jackson, him with the players Jarvis Landry, him with the staff. He's getting to know his new employers. In my opinion, think about it. The Giants don't want to pay his $20 million asking price. The Browns can pay that. They have $60 million in cap. They had a previous interest in him. He has a connection with Jarvis Landry. He's now talking with the coaches on live TV. This is really something to look out for here, and this could be something that we see fold out for the October deadline.
We also found out why Antonio Callaway got a chance. And he's a talent, a first-round talent. Instead, he went a couple rounds later. We found out why he got a chance due to the Corey Coleman trade. Hard Knocks is just bringing us in to the Cleveland Browns franchise. We feel like we're a part of the franchise. I think it's great so far.
It's like the fans get a window into this NFL franchise, and that's
Yeah.
all that a fan can desire. And every fan wishes their team had a Hard Knocks. Maybe not for the right reasons, because it does require them being one of the worst teams in the league. But still, they get to see it. They get to see into their team. And if you don't live in the city, you can't see their training camp. You can't see what's going on there. This gives you a look inside of that. It gives you a first row seat for this entertainment. You get to see all of it unfold, and this is it. It gives fans the power to know. It's power of knowledge, and knowledge is everything, in my opinion.
All right, now let's bring the NBA into the conversation. Obviously, the NBA and the NFL are both in the off season right now, and players are working so hard because some of them know that their careers are on the line. And for me, Emmanuel Moutier's career is on the line this season in New York. He was obviously the 7th pick in 2015 and has not lived up to his expectations. 12.8 points per game in his rookie season, career high. 5.5 assists in his rookie season, also a career high. Then he was traded to New York in the past season, 8.8 points per game, and that is not good for a starting point guard, especially in the big city of New York. He's starting ahead of guys this season. He'll be the starting point guard going into the season, starting ahead of Trey Burke and Frank Ntilikina. And if he does not perform well, he will get traded. And here is why. The Knicks have cap space available, and they can pay a big free agent in the upcoming free agency in 2019. Guys like Kyrie Irving are available, and I think that's who the Knicks have on their free agent board listed as number 1. And Kyrie Irving is obviously a point guard, so if Moutier doesn't show them that he can be a franchise player going forward, Kyrie Irving's going to take that role. And if Moutier shows them that he is a very important player to the franchise, he can distribute the ball well, he can also score, he can shoot the ball, which he struggles with. They'll go after a guy maybe like Jimmy Butler or maybe even Kawhi Leonard, who can play the small forward shooting guard position. So Moutier really has to show people what he's worth in New York this season.
And another player who I think was in that 2015 draft that has his career on the line this season is Jahlil Okafor, because he doesn't have a starting spot nailed down this season. They have Nikolai Mirotic, who can easily take over that power forward role, and that moves Anthony Davis down to center, and he's out of a job, and he's on the bench, and he's doing what he's been doing for the last couple of years. He hasn't had this opportunity to start consistently since 2016-17 season. Jahlil Okafor was good in that year, but he was only getting 20 minutes. When he's utilized like he's supposed to be, he has had 2 seasons averaging 30 minutes or more. And you want to see the stats? 17 points per game in both of those seasons. He had 7 or more rebounds per game in those seasons, over a block a game in those seasons, and 50% shooting, which is okay for a center. You'd probably expect a little bit more. And his main concern is shooting. And you know what he's actually tried to actively fix is his shot.
That's good.
Look at his college numbers. He won ACC Player of the Year with 50% free throws. He was like a Shaquille O'Neal. He was laughable outside of 15 or more feet. But at Brooklyn, he was trying so hard to fix that. He shot 76% from free throws, and that's a big improvement. That's 26%. And that doesn't just happen overnight. You're not one day a bad shooter, and the next day you're okay. He actually worked and tried hard, and you can't really fix your shot.
Yeah.
He's somehow done it. And if he can make Anthony Davis a power forward again, because I think that's his better role, I think I'd rather see him at power forward than center. Anthony Davis can make players better. He made that whole Pelicans team better. He is the second best or third best player in the league right now. He has Drew Holiday, who's also a very interesting player coming into the team. And they have one of my breakout contenders in Trayvon Bluier, who looked great in preseason, summer league, and got himself a contract on the team from being undrafted. He could get some look-ins, and this could be a really exciting team. could be a star man in this team, become an elite top 10 center, top 5 center if he could even live up to his potential. He was drafted at the 3 spot, we have to remember. He was supposed to be the next big thing, and he hasn't lived up to that. But if the Pelicans can use him 30 minutes a game this season, he will be their second best player on the team.
Like you said, Moutier and Okafor, both players who were selected in the 2015 draft. And for Moutier, I have some very important, or not important, but interesting information. Moutier is listed as the 46th guy coming off the board in ESPN's fantasy mock draft. That is just behind Donovan Mitchell, who's ranked 44th, and Steven Adams, who was tremendous in fantasy basketball last year, who was 45th. And that's ahead of guys like D'Angelo Russell, who was also in the 2015 NBA draft, who was ranked 67th. DeMarcus Cousins is ranked 98th. Obviously, he's ranked so low because of the move to Golden State. Kristaps Porzingis is also ranked 97th. So I think more and more people are beginning to see that Moutier is going to improve this season. I think Moutier will keep that starting job at point guard in New York after this season is all said and done.
And I'm going to move on to NFL. And I have another person in the 2015 draft making it third this year. It's Kevin White. He has had to do it in the last season at every single opportunity he's given. In high school, he had 1 year to get himself a college scholarship. And you know what he did? He did that. He had 700 yards, 10 touchdowns, averaging 16 yards a catch. That got Lackawanna College looking at him. So he took the JUCO route. He didn't get any actual Division I scholarship, so he takes the JUCO route, goes to Lackawanna College. He has his final year left at Lackawanna. He has a stellar year. He gets a scholarship from the West Virginia Mountaineers. You know what he does? He plays 10 games in his junior season. Nothing. He wasn't even going to be drafted in the first 7 rounds. He's going undrafted. He has 1 year to prove himself to the NFL scouts, and he has 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns.
Insane.
He was the best receiver in the draft class. He was fast. He was tall. He was agile. He was everything a team wanted, except he was injury prone. The Bears took a risk, took him at 7, and you know what happened? Injuries. He has 1 year left on his contract. So if the trend continues, he will, in fact, break out this season because he has his entire career on the line. Because if he doesn't have a good season now, he's going to be stuck in that free agent, going from practice squad to practice squad, trying to get a look in. He's the second most talented receiver on. And if he can finally get rid of this injury burden and have a season to remember, a full healthy season, he will be the Bears' number 2 receiver and help a young quarterback like Trubisky.
All right, I like that. I like that pick. Mine is obviously another NFL player, but he is a defensive player for the Seattle Seahawks, Shaquille Griffin. Shaquille with an L. Not Shaquem Griffin, who was drafted to Seattle, but Shaquille Griffin. And obviously, like I said, his brother is with Seattle, and that just is such a morale booster for the Griffin brothers, because now not only are they going to be working hard for their jobs, they're going to have fun while doing that, and that's going to relax a player, and all players want to have fun when playing in the NFL. Shaquille Griffin, the stats don't tell his story. Obviously, 1 interception and 50 tackles last season, which is not the best for a defensive player. The Seattle Seahawks lost guys like Cam Chancellor, who retired, Richard Sherman, who is now with the 49ers. Earl Thomas doesn't even want to be a Seahawk anymore. He went into the Cowboys locker room last season telling Jason Garrett that he wants to go to the Cowboys. So Earl Thomas probably won't be with Seattle in the next coming seasons. And Shaquille Griffin now becomes the number 1 cornerback for Seattle. So I think it's a great time to be Shaquille Griffin, and he will break out this season.
And now we go on to our favorite segment. It's Breakout or Bust. And we have 2 NFL running backs in the first round. We have Sony Michel and Rashad Penny. And we're starting for Rashad Penny. Is he a breakout or bust, Michel?
Rashad Penny, he is a breakout. He's a special player. He was projected to go in later rounds, but Seattle took a chance on him in the first round. 2,383 yards and 25 touchdowns, all from scrimmage. 23 of those 25 touchdowns were rushing touchdowns, and 2,248 of those yards were rushing yards. So he is a true running back for the Seahawks. And all those stats came from one season with San Diego State in 2017. He looked great in camp until he came down with that injury. But the injury doesn't worry me at all because he'll be ready for week 1. And I think at least he says he'll be ready for week 1. But I think he'll be great for the Seahawks, obviously, replacing a guy like Marshawn Lynch. And Seattle could not find a replacement for Lynch in the past seasons. And I think they finally found a guy in Rashad Penny who can replace Lynch. I don't know. I'm not saying he can live up to Lynch's expectations, but Rashad Penny will definitely be the running back that Seattle uses for the next couple of seasons or more.
I mean, whatever he does, he's going to be an improvement. Since they've had a good running back, Marshawn Lynch is retired, unretired, joined the Raiders, had a successful season with the Raiders, and signed a year extension. That's all happened, and the Seahawks have not found a running back.
Yeah.
Their top rusher last season was Russell Wilson. That is a problem for a team. The only team that you want to see your quarterback leading your rushing stats is with Carolina, and that's because Christian McCaffrey is not a rusher. He is a pass option in the backfield. But he's putting up unheard of numbers in college. Can you name a running back who had 2,200 yards in 13 games with
It's
25
amazing.
touchdowns? Those stats are unheard of. He was the conference offensive player of the year. Should have been the conference player of the year, in my opinion. He was that good. There's always 4 good running backs in a draft, sometimes even more. If you look at last year's draft, we have the league leader in rusher, Kareem Hunt, rookie of the year, Kamara, an elite Leonard Fournette, and an injured Dalvin Cook who looked good. Those are 4 great players, 2 of which going in the later rounds. All of our top 5 running backs in the league, maybe even top 7, are under 26. Le'Veon Bell is the oldest. This is a young, dynamic bunch of running backs in the league, which has proven that this draft will have that same caliber of running backs. But who do we have this year? We have Saquon Barkley and maybe Sony Michel and Rashad Penny if they're both breakouts.
Yeah.
Who else we have? We have maybe Royce Freeman, and that's about it. And that's why I think that he has to be a breakout. Because if you look at the quality that he brings to a team whose offense is lacking any kind of help, they lose Paul Richardson, they lose Jimmy Graham. It is Russell Wilson behind a terrible offensive line throwing to Doug Baldwin. They needed some help. A rock would be an improvement on this offense. It is that bad. Pete Carroll needs somebody, and that's why I think they've reached to get Rashad Penny in the first round. So, and
Yeah.
maybe breakout.
What about Sony Michel, another rookie running back? He's the second guy on our breakout or bust list. What do you think about him?
I mean, he has a high bust probability being on the Patriots and how he's not going to get enough touches. But that's who Sony Michel is. He split the backfield with Nick Chubb, still put up Herschel Walker-like numbers. He's filling in this Dion Lewis role perfectly. Not the tallest, not the most powerful back, but he had 8 yards a carry in all of college last season. He had 8 yards a carry in the national championship game. He is a monster. He is insane. No one has put up stats like him. Rashad Penny doesn't even have that many yards per carry. And there's a reason he got taken in the first round. There's a reason he was taken ahead of Nick Chubb, who has better stats. Because Sony Michel is a talent. He's not a prospect. He is a elite talent, not a prospect. And that's why I think he's going to be great. He's in this perfect role for him. Belichick has always a 3 running back system. Last year they had Dion Lewis, James White, and Rex Burkhead. He fits in perfectly with the scheme. He's not the best receiver, and they like to have one of their backs, or all of their backs, being able to flush out and provide an option for Tom Brady if the pocket closes in on him. And now that they lose Nate Solder, that's going to be more likely to happen. And They don't want Brady to get touched at all. So he just wants to dink it out to his running back if he can't find anyone deep downfield. And that's why that he could struggle a little bit. But this scheme and this play style fits perfectly together. It is a
Agreed.
perfect match. Match made in
Agreed.
heaven. Breakout.
Agreed. This match for the Patriots is perfect. They could not have gone wrong with Sony Michel. They lost a guy like Dion Lewis, who plays a lot like Sony Michel, and they still have a guy like James White, who also is very similar to Sony Michel. In Georgia, throughout his career, 4,234 yards from scrimmage and 39 touchdowns from scrimmage. 3,613 of those yards are rushing yards, which shows that he is more of a rusher than a receiver. But when you look at Sony Michel's highlights, a lot of his rushing yards come from tosses in the backfield, and I consider those tosses receptions. So I think Sony Michel will not have a problem transitioning to the receiving game in the NFL. So I think it's like you said, perfect match made in heaven for the Patriots and Sony Michel. So great pick for the Patriots. They got it right, especially with all those players on the board. They could have gone with another running back, Nick Chubb. Instead, they took Sony Michel, and they made the right choice with that. Concluding statement is breakout season for Sony Michel. All right, you got something to say?
No, I'm just saying we gotta go into our next segment. We got most exciting team in the NFL, and I define that as a couple of things. You have brand, watchability, market, and youth. And the team that embodies all of that is the Rams. The only team that comes close is the Saints. Two best offenses
Okay.
in the league with two of the greatest offensive coaches in the league. But this Rams team has market. The market and the brand of being in Los Angeles. That is the big thing. Having a market like that. That's why the Giants are one of the most profitable, most valuable assets in the league, going 3-13. They're still the second highest the third highest worth team in the league, even though they are pathetic. That's why teams like the Knicks have such a high value because they're in a high market. To have watchability, you have to have a good offense. The Rams had the best offense, and they go out there and add Brandon Cooks.
Mm-hmm.
That's not an upgrade. That's just mean. You can't just do that to the rest of the. They did lose a great player like Alex Ogletree for dirt cheap, but they bring in a cheap player in the draft like Ogbonna Okunawara, who I think looked great for Arkansas and who I was actually wanting the Saints to pick up in the draft, and I thought was a steal in the 4th round. They had a
Wow.
couple of other good, sneaky pickups. They obviously got Ndamukong Suh from the Miami Dolphins. That's going to be a scary pass rush. They're probably going to move Aaron Donald out to right end to compensate for that. And how do you stop those two, the most dominant defensive player in the league and one of the most dominant defensive tackles in the league? You can't. That's why the Rams look scarily good. Their secondary is also amazing. They have safeties like LaMarcus Joyner and John Johnson, who are young, talented, and have great promise. They have Aqib Talib, Marcus Peters, and Nicky Robbie, and those are all looking like great pickups. Marcus Peters was dirt cheap for what was it, like a 2nd or 4th round pick?
Mm-hmm.
Great
You're
pickup.
right.
Aqib Talib was a great free agent. They have the best running back in the league. They have a receiving core of Cooper Kupp, Brandon Cooks, and Robert Woods. Great last season. And
Yeah.
it's not just the offense and defense. They have the best special teams in the league. They are the best. Second best punter, Johnny Hecker. One of the best kickers, Greg Zuerlein. And Pharaoh Cooper had so many touchdowns. Sure, he had 3 fumbles against Atlanta, but that was an off game. He had the most touchdowns off kickoffs and punt returns in the league. He was exciting to watch as a special teams man. And if you can clean up those errors, this team goes far in the playoffs. Their minimum goal is Super Bowl, and that's just a big step. And I don't know if they'll
Yeah.
reach that. They are the most exciting team in the league.
All right, so William gave you the New Orleans Saints and the Los Angeles Rams, and I'm giving you the Houston Texans as my most interesting team. You got Deshaun Watson and J.J. Watt coming back from injury. Deshaun Watson is one of the best QBs already, in my opinion. J.J. Watt is arguably one of the best defensive players in the league. If not, he is the best. The only problem for him is he's got to stay healthy. 3 defensive player of the years, and he's a contender every single season. The Texans acquired very important players to the defensive roster now in Tyrann Mathieu, longtime Arizona Cardinal, and Aaron Clovin, who did not allow a touchdown with Jacksonville last season. Of course, he split time with Ramsey and Boye, but he did play the nickelback position. And when he was with Jacksonville, he learned under guys like Jalen Ramsey and AJ Boye, who are two of the best cornerbacks in the league. The Texans also have tremendous wide receivers. Will Fuller is a guy Watson can throw to, and DeAndre Hopkins, in my opinion, who is one of the best receivers in the league. If not, I could make a case that DeAndre Hopkins is the best receiver in the league. The Texans are definitely taking a big step this season. I think they will make the playoffs, and they have the ability to go very far, only if they can stay healthy. That's the big if for the Houston Texans.
And if you could just imagine if they didn't trade away Brock Osweiler to the Browns, they would have had the 4th overall pick. They would have either had Chubb or Denzel Ward, and that would have been great for their team. That would have made them.
Yeah.
That would have made them arguably one of the best teams in the league. And that was a bad decision because they would have got rid of that cap sooner or later, and they didn't have to give that much value.
I mean, it worked out great for Cleveland, though. We'll close out the show with the MLB playoffs. We'll be giving you our dark horse. You ready, Will?
Yeah, obviously, and I'm ready for the playoffs to start sooner than later. But a team that it's widely considered a dark horse because the fact they weren't considered to do well at all, but they have one of the best records in the league. The Oakland Athletics. They're predicted to be one of the teams that were tanking this year. No one expected them to do well. That division in the AL West is so strong. The fact that the 3rd place team would be the top team in 4 divisions in the league. The 3rd place teams. This is as dominant as the NFC South is, having 3 playoff teams last season. And the A's are only 2 games back from the Astros. They had incredible hitting. They made some great pickups at the deadline, including Jesus Familia, who we talked about in our second podcast. He's looking great already. He had a good close up the other day. And
yeah, he did.
If you look at their stats, Chris Davis has had 34 home runs this season. He has 93 RBIs and 41 walks, having a 254 on base percentage, which 254 batting average, and a 329 on base percentage. Okay, but 34 home runs is one of the best in the league, and
Yeah.
you expect that of your outfielders. You need your outfielders to be your big hitters, but most of their contribution is from the infield. They have Olsen on first base, Lowry on second base, and Chapman on third base. Those are their 2nd, 3rd, and 4th best hitters on that team. This is why this team's doing so well. They have a guy who has the on base percentage like Nick Martini, who has a 302 batting average. Although he hasn't been playing as much as the other guys, he's only had 63 at bats, but that he has looked good during those at bats. And if he can, that's the kind of depth that you need in a playoff contending team. And if he can recover, he could be an invaluable asset. He could displace Pinder in the outfield at left field, but we'll just see. And this team looks scary going into the postseason. They have a good mix of hitting and pitching. They play in a dumpster fire of a stadium. They are sure good to watch.
They are. They're a very special team to watch. The Oakland Athletics are a very special team to watch. My dark horse team has to be the Atlanta Braves. Although they are young, they have a lot of veteran talent, not to mention NL MVP contender Freddie Freeman, averaging 323 and 20 home runs this season. Nick Markakis, who is averaging 321 and 14 home runs. Freeman and Markakis were both starters in the All-Star game in DC. They've also got young guys. Acuna is 20 years old, and he is unconscious right now. He's hit 5 home runs in the past 3 games, leading off with dingers to center field, dingers to left field, dingers out of the park. He is on fire and is only going to get better. Ozzy Albies is 21 years old, averaging 279 and 21 home runs. This Atlanta Braves team is special. They are the second best team in the National League as of now. But the only problem for them is the pitching. And when you want to win the World Series, you have to have consistent pitchers. And the Braves have the exact opposite of that. Toki Toussaint came in the number 7 prospect. He had a good first win. Julio Teheran is arguably their most inconsistent pitcher because you never know when he's going to be on or off. Sean Newcomb is definitely their best pitcher, but sometimes he will be off and have a rough game. Let the other team put up 7 runs in the first couple of innings. Mike Foltynewicz, who went to the All-Star game, he's never really consistent. His pitching record is just above 500. So the Braves have very inconsistent pitching. But what makes them a dark horse team is that if their pitching is on, they have a chance to go to the World Series, and I legitimately mean that. So they can go far in this postseason, but the weight of the team all lies on the pitcher's shoulders.
And I think on Acuna, the first pitch of the last 3 games, he hit home run.
Yeah.
The only reason that trend stopped is because they hit him with a pitch. That's the only reason that trend stopped. Those were Jason Hayward type numbers when he first entered the league. Jason Hayward was unstoppable when he first entered the league. Hopefully, we don't have the same situation here in Atlanta because Jason Hayward's hitting did fall off a cliff going to the Cubs. But he's still a pretty capable player in the outfield, and this could be a pretty dark horse contender. And they haven't been to the playoffs since the rebuild started.
Yeah. And speaking of Acuna, he is unconscious. And this just in fact, Jose Urena is suspended 6 games by the MLB for intentionally hitting the Braves' young superstar. Did you see that pitch yesterday?
97 miles an hour straight to the chest.
Yeah, that to the elbow. That is painful. And he will lead off tonight at 7:35 for the Atlanta Braves. But Jose Urena, I don't know whose idea that was. That was brutal. Brutal, not only for the Marlins organization, but for Ronald Acuna. That'll do.
I mean, what did the Marlins have to gain from that? It's not like they're not the first team in the. Oh, we might get 1 win this season against a good team.
Yeah, it was just pathetic sportsmanship and pathetic showmanship by the Marlins organization and Jose Urena. But that'll do it for Triple Threat. Once again, please leave a question in the comment section, and we'll get to it in our next episode. But we'll see you Monday. I'm Michel Vetz. Thank you, Will. We'll see you Monday.